This is the Ford Mustang Mach-E. This specific one is the E all-wheel drive version. So 311 horsepower, 427 pound-feet of torque. We're gonna have a little bit of fun right now. First thing I gotta say is that looking at the 2023 versus the 2024 model, there are some differences. They're not major differences, but there are some differences there. So the first thing to point out is that inside of the Select version of the Mach-E for 2024, it's interesting, Ford decided to open up the E all-wheel drive long-range version too. So you can now get the long-range version inside of the Select, which in previous years was strictly available in the premium version of the vehicle instead, which is kind of cool. Now I mentioned there's the option for either the rear-wheel drive or the all-wheel drive. Rear-wheel drive, if you're in states if you're in Canada, or if you're in states where you're going to get snow, if the Mach-E is going to be your daily driver, I would highly recommend against getting the rear-wheel drive. Rear-wheel drive, snow, they just don't mix whatsoever. Like slippery, snowy conditions, it is a gong show. So if you are contemplating getting a Mach-E, go for the all-wheel drive version. It's a couple bucks more, but the performance difference between them, it's a complete night and day difference. So this is the 2023 model. So the big difference, as I mentioned, is going to be the wheel. So it's going to go from this 18-inch into a 19 instead. There are some other differences between the 23 and the 24. The California Route 1 is no longer going to be available. There are some paint color differences and a few other things too. The Mach-E is going to have either a 72 kilowatt hour or a 91 kilowatt hour battery. And that's available rear-wheel drive or E all-wheel drive instead, with varying power outputs. Like the 72 kilowatt hour rear-wheel drive has 266 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque, while the all-wheel drive version is going to kick that up to 311 horsepower and 427 pound-feet of torque. Range is all over the place too, depending on if you're in the standard or the extended range, rear-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive. So rear-wheel drive, for the 72 kilowatt, you're going 247 miles or 397 kilometers. And then you're kind of maxing out at that 91 kilowatt hour rear wheel drive in the extended range, which is going to take you 310 miles or 499 kilometers instead. But when you look at the all-wheel drive version of that extended range, that's 290 miles or 467 kilometers. The Vapor Blue, the more I see it, I think if the windows were tinted a little bit more, that would look really, really nice. Now, one thing that's unchanged from the 23 to the 24 model is the key fob. So you've got the unlock button, lock button, trunk release, horn or panic alarm button, and then a blank emergency access key. But you still have all of the cool key fob tricks. So you can double push in order to have the windows roll down, and then you can double push the lock button to roll them back up as well. It's going to keep it open. Isn't it a beautiful December day? This is amazing. But along the driver's side there, so you've got power folding side view mirrors that do feature a camera and the blind spot monitoring system, along with the 5-digit factory number pad there as well. So you can enter in a 5-digit number if you wanted to get inside the vehicle if you didn't have the fob on you. You can also push the bottom 2 buttons there if you wanted to be able to lock the door. But let's hop inside. Oh yeah. Love it. Love the styling. Along the door, same thing, it's unchanged. So you've got your power folding side view mirror button control, all of your window controls, handle to get out, a little bit of storage there, and then a few speaker choices as always. Love that animation. Beautiful. Taking a peek along the side, front defroster, figure out what's going on at the running lamps, and then increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. And then there's also the ability of toggling traction control on or off. We'll get back on the inside in just a second. But, ooh, I like that little pony and the lamps there. You've got the forward sensing system. Got this nice black highlight that follows all the way throughout. It's just very Mach-E-esque. Like I said, the design year over year hasn't changed. Black pony in the middle with that front-facing camera. I like that forward sensing system. Underneath the frunk of the vehicle, as always, you've got your pony along the very top. Nothing along the left side. Along the right, pretty much one of the only things you have to worry about for maintaining an electric. So you've got your windshield wiper fluid. Like obviously you'd have to worry about the tires and brakes and things like that. But in the inside here, we've got a little light and then a release in case somebody small gets caught inside. The Frunk also does support drainage. So if you wanted to use this thing for tailgating, just throw a boatload of ice in. It's going to drain along the very bottom as the ice melts. That's nice. It's good. The sizing here is actually pretty good too. So look at the Frunk measurements. Pretty good overall, I think. The rear lamps inside of the Mach-E do feature sequential turn lights. I think that looks kind of nice. Borrowed from the regular Mustang. The back end, you can make out the reverse sensing system there on top of that. Always going to have the rear wiper. There's a little light bar over the top there. Pony, and then the rear camera on top of that. Now, inside of the Mach-E, you've got a few different options for the tailgate itself. So it's either going to be a manual inside of the Select or a power tailgate instead. Or liftgate, I guess I should say. So all you're going to do, button just under there, you're just going to insert your fingers and push. And up. It goes. On the inside here, so you've got, these are the thermoplastic rubber trays, because this thing would typically come with just regular cloth liners instead, but you do have the thermoplastic rubber trays from the factory, and then even a cargo liner there as well, so that is available as a packaged option. Along the right side, there's a 12-volt power point. You've got the light in the back, and then popping this thing up. This is just the regular carpeted liner, and then lifting up, you've also got a decent amount of storage space underneath. Now, one thing to point out, so you've got your little inflator kit off to the left side, and then off to the right-hand side, you've also got your charge cable. Now, the charge cable inside of the 2024 model is going to be optional. So you do have to order it from the factory in order to get it. But the charge cable does support both level 1 and level 2 charging. Folding down the second row seats is straightforward, so along the back, you could just grab and push, and down it goes, and just opens things up so nicely when you do that. Now, if you don't need to get into the trunk in order to fold down the second row seats, on the inside here, it's going to lift up. You can see there the button for the seat release is along the very top. So all you're going to do is just push and pull. Down it goes. Straightforward. I'm kind of torn on the liftgate itself. Having a power one is nice, but I mean, inside of the manual, you can push the button there all you want. It's not closing. You got to do it yourself, which not necessarily a bad thing. All right, let's do a quick little look in the second row. So nothing crazy here. You've got your window control, handle, and a little bit of storage there. Up and on the inside. So inside of the second row here, I've got a good amount of knee space, good amount of foot space, and up overhead. Hold on. There we go. So me sitting fully upright, like 3-ish inches of headspace there. That's one thing that I like about the Mach-E in comparison to the regular Mustang, is that the second row in the regular Mustang, there is 0% chance that somebody my size is fitting back there. So it is nice you've got functional space if you need it. But feature-wise back here, nothing too crazy. You've got pockets behind both the driver and the passenger side. Down low, you've also got a few vent controls. Basic control for the fan speed, and then 2 power points. So there's a USB-C and then a USB Type-A as well. Up overhead on both the passenger side and the driver's side, there's a little handle, clothing hook, and a light. Like I said, that's the same on both sides. The seat, comfortable. It's the ActiveX seating material here. So I like it. It's a faux leather, so a leatherette essentially. You've got a few cup holders there, and then the anchor points there as well. And then the top tether points are just in behind. Like I said, it's nice. Surprisingly comfortable. Getting into the first row. So again, unchanged. Driver's seat memory, and the cool thing about the memory is that it's tied to your seat and to the side view mirror. So you'd set those up the way that you'd like to, and then you're going to press and hold either 1, 2, or 3. So set your seat up, press and hold in order for it to remember your own personal profile. So every time you hop in, if it's seat set differently, you just push and it's going to adjust it for you. Basic styling here though, this is good. So you've got this metallic highlight that follows all the way through the dash on the passenger side. I like this material though. I think it's a really good contrast. There, the metallic highlight right along the very top shoots through. It's good. I like the startups here on both the cluster screen and the Sync 4 media screen. It's nice. So you've got your little cluster screen there. You've got your current range, battery percentage, which direction you're facing. And then you've also got basics for your vehicle, vehicle speed, what gear you're currently in, vehicle, the road speed for based off of the one you're on, and then your total trip counter. So this is how many kilometers the vehicle's traveled so far. Top of that, you've got this. So you can kind of see the lights going a little bit wonky there. So that's the Blue Cruise system. So these things are essentially cameras that are going to watch your eyes. So if you're using the hands-free driving on highways or interstates, etc., these things are going to make sure that you're not sleeping. You've got blinkers, high beams, windshield wipers for the front, and there's a button on the tip of that stick for the rear. This thing also does have the adaptive cruise control system, which I love it. So you've got the adaptive on, distance indicator, how close or far do you want to be away from the vehicle that's in front of you. There's a lane keeping system there as well. This is good. But if you want a full walkthrough, like you want to know how to use the steering wheel buttons, go through the cluster screen, or even the Sync 4A media screen, you'll find those walkthroughs down in the description of this video. You're obviously going to be push button start inside of this thing. And then you've got factory navigation as well. And the factory nav, nice and responsive. Kind of nice. There's so many things, like so many things inside of this screen. Apps and entertainment, so you've got all sorts of games that are available. But one thing about the games is that the second you go into drive, the games are no longer available. So you do have to be in park in order for the games to be usable, which totally makes sense. One thing that's not available here, which I'm like, yeah, why? There's no option to get Netflix whatsoever, or video in general. So you can't watch any video from the factory through this screen. It's like one thing I think that Android Auto Apple CarPlay should definitely have, but this screen should also support video playback as long as you're not in drive. So if you're in park, you should be able to use that. So let's go through a quick little audio test right now. Gonna be going through USB, plug in. All right, here we go. In just a second, maybe. How if I go to media though? So media, and then if you look, you've got USB available as an option there as well. So just gonna go USB. I think I've got 2 different songs that are on here. Now, there are a few different speaker systems and setups that are available inside of this thing too. So I personally am a bigger fan of the 10 speaker Bang & Olufsen that you're gonna find inside of the higher trims, but this one is still pretty good as long as you tweak the settings properly. So what you're going to do is go through your settings. You're looking for sound settings, tone settings, drop the treble by a couple points, crank the bass by a few points. Something kind of like this, like treble down 2 or 3 points, bass crank by like 3, 4-ish, generally gives really good audio.
I got all this potential that's deep inside of me, but they hate when you're successful because they try to be. They sit there being judgmental because...
I've got the audio set up on this thing, so it's halfway. I've got the windows open still as well. The audio inside of this thing is ridiculously good. So hold on, I'm going to go through again. So as of right now, the volume, I'm going to go from 0 and then crank it to halfway. But listen to this.
So get a good job, don't slack off. Wake up every morning, make a good impression on your boss. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do. And when you're making money, make sure you don't spend it too soon.
It's so ridiculously good. Like the audio inside of this thing, I absolutely love it. It's a tighter cabin, which absolutely helps. But I think that especially when you crank those 2 settings, it just sounds really damn good. I've got options for phone, for navigation, all sorts of media options too. Like there are so many different things that you can do inside of this screen. Of course, no device paired. All sorts of different controls. You've got whisper, engage, unbridled. So if you want to unlock truer performance, 1 pedal driving means that you don't have to really worry about the brake as much. It's really just the accelerator. Like you take your foot off the accelerator and the car slows down very, very rapidly. Propulsion sound is going to play a little sound through the speakers. Calming screen if you think it's a little bit too much, which the calming screen itself does look pretty cool too. There are so many different things. Driver assistance settings, there's valet mode, there's adaptive cruise control. Like I said, so many different things. So it's a full walkthrough down in the description of this video. Got a camera button there, and then as you can see, so you've got front view, front partial view, full 360 view. But if you fling yourself down into reverse, all of a sudden you've got that reverse, so the 360 view, but also a little back view or a little split view there as well. So just in case you're moving around tighter obstacles. Beeping that you get as you back up, if that drives you nuts, you could technically toggle it off as well. Top of that, climate control settings are baked right into the screen. So you can adjust it very easy. It's actually kind of neat. I like the way that Ford's done this. So it's like you select it, you can change it this way, or you can just kind of go up and down this way. And that's the same for the driver passenger side, and even for the fan speed. It's kind of neat. You've got auto modes, and then also the option for heated seats. There's a heated steering wheel button there as well, and it's heated all the way around. You've got fan control, etc. Moving down, you've got a few USB power points, so another USB Type-C and a USB-A, along with a wireless charge pad, so if your phone supports it, that's there. A few cup holders. And then, one thing down there, you can see a teeny little storage tray as well. Got your rotary dial shifter, which, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the rotary shifter at first, but it's straightforward. Park, reverse, neutral, drive, dedicated low mode. And then this is going to be your navigate to parking. So if you're in a Mach-E that doesn't have park assist, navigate to parking is essentially the destination that you're going to, what parking is available there. Four-way blinkers, there's an electronic parking brake. This, lift up and slide to get 12-volt power point down there. And back down it goes. Up overhead. This thing does have an auto-dimming rearview mirror. Unfortunately, there's no way to turn the auto-dimming functionality off, so that always essentially working. What that means is that if there's glare going on behind you, because some idiots got their high beams flashed, this thing is essentially going to dim down. It's essentially the same thing as that old school flip in the bottom there. From there, you've also got some basic cabin control lights, sunglasses holder. This is the home link system, so if you've got a garage door opener at home, you can easily program it in. So a little ticket holder, receipt holder on the outside and on the inside. And then a vanity mirror with lights built in. And this thing extends out. Oh yeah, all the way. Loving it. Blocking all of the sun. That might be hitting your face. There's also a little assist handle on the driver's side and then on the passenger side there too. Now one thing, some versions of the Mach-E are also going to have a full panoramic sunroof, and it's a fixed glass roof, but it just opens things up so nicely. One thing about the roof though, inside of the 2024 models, the roof inside of the GT, or sorry, I should say the premium model is going to be optional now. So no longer a standard feature. If you want to get it, you have to get it at time of ordering from the factory. I do like how much it opens it up, but at the same time, I know people don't like the glass in case of a rollover, whatever the case may be. So just go in knowing if you're ordering a 2024 premium, you will have to get that right at time of ordering from the factory because it's not going to be standard anymore. Now, and this thing is loaded with technology on top of that. So I've got the adaptive cruise control system going, got a little bit of a lead foot, which is just like exacerbated with the Mach-E because, well, any electric really, because the insane amount of torque and the power that you get because of it. So if you've got a heavy foot, using the adaptive cruise system is probably going to save you from a ticket or two. This is good. There is also the Blue Cruise system. So Blue Cruise is Ford's hands-free driving. It's not quite as advanced as Tesla's autopilot system is, but still it's pretty solid at the same time. Because in certain circumstances, well, not certain, there are a ton of highways, interstates, etc. in Canada and the States where you can drive fully hands-free. So this thing, adaptive cruise, is taking me down to a complete stop. Like, every time it does. I trust the technology, but it gets so friggin' close sometimes. You're like, is it actually going to stop? It did, and it does, but you can ride the brake. So if you're not 100% trusting of the technology, you can ride the brake if you want to, but it's a torque. I love it. One thing about the charging itself, you want to make sure that you're charging usually like 80–90% at the very most. You definitely don't want to keep on running this thing up to 100% charge all the time. You are going to end up damaging the battery. So unless you need it the next day, so if you're going on like a crazy long road trip, you know you're going to use the energy, keep it. You can set the max capacity right through the cluster screen there, or through the infotainment system. So how much this thing is going to charge up until. So if you're not going to go on a road trip, you're not going to need it. I just don't charge past 80–90%. That's going to give you the best possible life out of the battery inside of this thing. Let's have some fun. Bye-bye. I love that so much. The power, it's so good. I'm like, this isn't even the best power you're gonna get out of it because this is just a Select with the standard range battery. So you bump yourself up into the premium version, or sorry, the extended range instead. Oh, I love it. All right, test 2. Oh, I love that so much. Oh, it's so good. All right, so here's the thing though. Like I said, if you've got a heavy foot, that's something you're gonna wanna take into account when you're considering your range. If you're heavy footed, you are gonna use a little bit more in comparison. Have some fun though. You gotta have some fun though. So you know what, let's go this side street. The reason why I wanna do the side street is just so we can have a little bit more fun with the driving dynamics. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, and it's even a 50 zone. Perfect, here we go. All right. Set and yeah, super responsive. That's nice. That's nice. The choice of whether you look at an electric or you stick with the gas engine is going to depend on you. Like, what are your driving habits like? What are your, what does your daily life look like? What is your yearly life? Are you the type of person where you go on road trips all the time? For me, I am. Like, I go on road trips often and they're usually like 1,000 kilometers plus one way. So the last thing that I would want, like, even though this thing has decent range, in the wintertime, that range gets cut usually by about 30-ish%. So on one of my usual road trips, I'd probably have to stop maybe 3 times, 2, maybe 3 times in order to get to my destination. And the idea of having to stop somewhere for 30, 45 minutes to supercharge up, it doesn't sound overly exciting to me by any stretch. So that's literally the only reason why I haven't looked at an electric as my next vehicle as of yet. Now, if you're the type of person where maybe you aren't road tripping often, maybe you only go on road trips occasionally or you don't at all, it's just a work vehicle, 300, 400, 500 kilometer range inside of this thing is probably good for a number of people. So that would, I think would probably be the big one, is like, if you can budget out a little bit more for an electric, you're not gonna have as much maintenance. It's just brakes, tires, and windshield wiper fluid, really. There's some other general maintenance, but nowhere near as much, and it's not nearly as expensive as a gas engine. So I'm kind of torn. Like, do I look at an electric maybe as the secondary vehicle? Or like maybe a primary, and then I've got just a regular secondary instead, like a gas engine instead, for when I do have to go on those longer road trips? I'm kind of torn. The electric, like the Mach-E, is a very, very fun ride. I don't think I've ever been in one and not enjoyed the ride while I'm in it. Formula Ford here in Pickering, nice enough to lend this thing to me for the afternoon to shoot the video for you guys. So if you're in the market for a Mach-E, for an electric, for a Lincoln, Ford, F-150, whatever the case may be, you definitely want to connect with these guys. They've got you covered. Leave their contact details down in the description of this video. But that, while I figure out how I'm going to park this thing, was a look at the Ford Mustang Mach-E. Now, this is the Select trim level specifically, but if you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. If you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and until I see you next time, take care.